Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm here with Skyler Dye of the Dyed Red initiative of his channel Dyed Red. um uh Recently he's been on Daniel, or I guess Americanitis, Dan's podcast, and this is the first person Dan's beat me to though. It's annoying, but it is what it is. I beat him to Frog, he beat me to Dyed Red, and yeah. But go subscribe to his channel. I mean, it's going to be in the description, obviously, like everyone's is. And yeah, so how are you doing, man?
I'm actually doing pretty good today, to be completely honest. Last few days haven't been so great, but I took some time away from everything and refueled a little bit. So I'm doing better, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. I watched your video, like, discussing different things that you were seeing, and it's really interesting to see like how you react to just like these really little things, and just like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's a really good thing, I think. Like, I don't know, there's this like passion for ideas that I see in you, like when I hear you talk and hear you talk about these things, and it's like, damn, like I want that sort of passion. And yeah, and like I generally have tried to be getting to that by like learning objectivism more, but that's like incredible. Like you in your podcast with Dan, you're like talking about, oh, the first time I opened Atlas Shrugged, like I read it and I was like, this is too much, this is too good, and I gotta save this for later. That's, yeah, that, I mean, that was incredible. Like, yeah, like this is fucking amazing stuff. It's profound, and you have like a good sense of life about it, which is something that I think we should all be striving for, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, I do pride myself on my own, I guess, ability to have kept some of that. I don't have to like rebuild my sense of life or
Mm-hmm.
anything. I have to remind myself of it at times, but I think there's always been something that's been there that wants to be uplifted or uplifting, or strive towards some positive, which I think I don't know exactly where that comes from. Like
Yeah.
probably like a bunch of different things, but I'm glad that I've had it, and I've slowly been trying to reduce my self confidence issues,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so that I can eventually become the kind of person that can use that for myself, for my own like artistic stuff, and I guess like marry the all the things I want to do with some of the positive things I just kind of put out, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like, yeah, confidence is actually something that I've struggled a lot with too, and that's kind of like why I created my channel. I used to say that so often. I felt like I repeated that so many times, and I guess like now just thinking about it, like that's the whole reason I started this. And like, yeah, that, I guess that's something that we kind of share in common, and I can see that like in your music. That's one thing I listened to. Liberty's Cry, and like that was like passionate, confident, strong. That was incredible. I loved
Yeah,
that song, and
thank
like,
you. I,
yeah.
I couldn't have written that song like 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, I've really been writing songs on and off since like freshman year of high school. I took up guitar my sophomore year, and none of my songs were really all that good
Mm.
until probably maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm.
And when I started finally like, not that I hadn't written anything decent, uh, but that there was kind of something missing. I was trying to still find, what's my angle, what's my voice, what kind of things do I just want to do, and it was sort of it related to the self confidence thing. Even though no one would hear the songs or I wouldn't put them on YouTube or anything, it was as if I was like fighting myself with letting myself go through the process of making something. And it
Mm.
wasn't even music that clicked with me. It was actually writing my first full length play
Mm.
that gave me like some really good artistic confidence, and that's just kind of transferred over
Hmm.
to the music making. And I think now when I'm doing it steadily and fixing my songs and actually doing them, there's sort of an automatic confidence there. I don't know if I call it confidence, but it's kind of like it's loving the doing that wasn't
Yeah.
quite there. Yeah, and
Hmm.
it's really freeing. And in a way, I see the same thing in your videos over the past like I don't know 6 months or so. Your first ones, I would watch your daily content.
Yeah.
There's something there are things you do now that you didn't back then. Even like the tone of your voice and how strong you come out with certain things. The way you're able to joke about like the groipers and stuff. I don't think you would have been able to do that when you first started.
Oh no,
And
definitely not. Like,
yeah,
yeah, if I would, I feel like if I would have gotten the kind of hate that I got after the Gripers thing, after like my first video, like I don't think I would have continued doing YouTube, because I remember in my first video, I like I recorded that. It was like, it's called The Purpose of This Channel, and it's like just it, not even me on the screen. It's just a picture of like my profile picture, and I'm just talking, and um like I think I recorded one, and then I like started uploading it, and I was like, no, this is terrible. Took it down immediately, and like it took me like 10 tries to upload, to 10 tries to like record that, and like it was crazy. Like I had so little confidence going into that thing, and feeling like every little thing had to be perfect, and every little thing had to be right. No stuttering, no pauses, none of that. And when I would focus too much on making my speaking perfect, it'd be really damaging to the overall quality, because you kind of get caught in your head so much, and you can't actually speak the words. You can't actually say the things you're trying to say when you're thinking so much about what you're trying to say.
oh yeah, that's honestly a big reason why for example, I don't script my Bible series totally.
Hmm.
uh, because I basically I take a bunch of notes on my phone after I've read something, and then I basically do different drafts of the notes, and some of them get more complex. Some of them I take out, I put in jokes, and then I read through it, and then I either put up like a sticky note of something I want to talk about, like I can't forget, or I take the notes off entirely and I just talk into the camera and then edit it later.
Mm.
Um, Partly so I can get better at speaking extemporaneously,
Yeah.
and uh, that it's a more casual kind of series, so I don't really worry about scripting it necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's kind of the same thing where I kind of just go, and if an editing joke comes to me as I'm editing, I'll put in like the most recent one. Um, I'm doing a lot with like little visual effects and zoom ins
Oh
and
yeah.
like making the video like distorted, changing the pitch of my voice, doing really really silly stuff.
Yeah.
Like a basically trying to practice YouTube pooping myself, because a side thing I want to do eventually is like maybe make YouTube poops of like I don't know Richard Wolf or something, and rather than make it like just silliness, like say I
Yeah.
took like Nick Mentes, it would actually be a YouTube poop that would specifically like what Kirk does with his videos, how he'll put some clips together and then do like a wah wah noise or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. It's like it's awesome. It's like so like extra, and like I don't know, like I don't know how to explain it. Like this humor, like it's stuff that Rucka does too. It's this stuff that Kirk kind of does too. It's just like this really like in your face sort of humor that is really funny. But like I feel like some people, like the first time that I heard some of this type of humor, I'm like, what the fuck? This is kind of cringe. But then I'm like, no, this is like cringy, but it's funny because it's sort of cringe in that sense, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think what makes some of their like my favorite thing Kirk does is in some of his videos he'll start with like a clip of whatever he's talking about, and then it'll play what sounds almost like circus music, and it'll zoom out and he'll slide into frame. For me, that is the funniest
Oh,
damn
I
thing.
love it.
I don't know why, but it's hilarious, and I kind of want to learn by doing to do some of that kind of thing, and the bad people, to make them look, to showcase how dumb and wrong they are,
Mm.
and having a laugh about it, rather than the traditional YouTube poop thing of just making something nonsense and having a laugh at the ridiculousness of making SpongeBob say the most ridiculous things. It's more you know You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because yeah, it's like it's.
I
I
think.
guess it's more sort of effective too because you're actually like, oh, you're cutting out a little bit. Oh, never mind. I thought you paused for a second. If you, but whatever. Okay. Yeah, you're like sort of attacking evil as well there too. Like it's like something that's you're actually is actually real, something that's actually gonna have an impact rather than just like low random sort of humor that like it's funny stuff. I mean, I'm a zoomer. I like that stuff, but it's like something where you're kind of converting that into a more effective and uh more
Like
directed
to
way, like directed against evil, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. I think it's funny. One of the things I'm trying to do with the current play I'm writing is I just got to the point in the writing of it that I've introduced some of the they're not villains, they're antagonists,
Hmm.
and the second half of the show is all about I have to showcase these characters and make fun of them and put them in situations with the heroes. That's kind of like, I guess the best way I would explain it would be like how I guess Ayn Rand would put the conversations of like let's say Ellsworth Toohey and his band of artists that are all ridiculous
Hmm.
characters, except what if those types of people interacted with the heroes, and how
Yeah.
would how would the banter be, and how would those things reveal both things about the characters. So for
Yeah, that
example,
that's what that sort of reminds me actually. Sorry, I don't want to. If you want to
go
keep
ahead.
going, okay. Yeah, that actually sort of reminds me of in Atlas Shrugged, like there'd be the people at the parties, right? And they're all like doing their like meaningless chat, and then like Francisco walks in, and every time he did, I felt like this like I don't know, this like really strong feeling of like, yes, somebody real's here. Somebody real is just going to show these people their place, and he'd come in and be super charismatic and like take over the party, and everyone hated him, and it was incredible. I loved it.
Yeah, Francisco is a force of nature in that book. Oh my god,
Yeah.
uh, he's so amazing, uh, and he's so vivid as a character. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
want to one day write something that is that just like in your face in terms of like it's like, oh, clearly it's real while you're reading it,
Mm-hmm.
like as if you're literally transported there. And like I said, one of the things I want to do with the current play I'm writing is to have these funny scenarios and funny dialogue, and hopefully have it be kind of silly in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to Leonard Peikoff's logic course, so he goes through like all sorts of fallacies, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, that'd be a fun way to do an argument between two characters, like let's say to showcase circular reasoning, but to do it in a funny situation. Have one character make a really bad argument and say, oh well, uh, I don't know, cabbages are delicious because I like cabbages. I don't know. And then the heroes and then the characters who are more mixed have a discussion about this kind of silly topic, and how, how the villains have to like weasel their way through things and they stumble over it. Uh, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
it'd be
No,
my
I see.
yeah, it's my way of applying something to an artistic concept and hopefully making it funny and
Mm-hmm.
also driving the story. It's God, there's so many things that go into it that it kind of boggles my mind if I think too much about it.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
kind
No,
of
but
goes
that makes sense though, because like reducing some argument, like the principle of it, and just like extending it and continuing it, just the basic principle of it, and seeing like how that leads to complete absurdity, and like that leads you to laugh. That leads you like that. I mean, that's what Rand does so well in those conversations. She like takes these like principles and then like lets them go in conversation, and then lets them keep going past where they normally would in the conversation, past the point where they would normally just cut off the conversation, evade the rest, and then you see like this is absurd, like this is funny, like people believe this shit. Like what the fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like the bit in Atlas. I think it's early on where there's like it's some party, and there's like an author who writes like the hottest garbage of the day, and there's like a crowd around him, and he's like, everything is meaningless because nothing exists, and everyone's like, oh, it's so wonderful, yeah, so truly brilliant. It's just like, what the hell is all of it?
Yeah.
It's weird, and uh, I don't know, it's it's funny to me, and I
Yeah.
kind of want
I mean,
to play around with that.
hmm yeah. I mean, when you hear this sort of stuff, it makes them just sound like the fucking like those fucking pot smokers are sitting in the circle like, bro, what if it's all just a simulation, man? Like, what the heck? Oh, nothing's real. Like, oh, like these people sound crazy, but
There was a
but these are the people who like dominate our philosophical institutions. Like, it's
Yeah. I
weird.
mean, there was a guy I knew in college who actually used the "what if we're in the Matrix" argument seriously
Hmm
to me. And unfortunately, I didn't know how to how to argue against that, which the best way to do that is just to say, no, you're wrong, and then disengage. But and by even engaging in the conversation with him, I gave grounds to his argument, and that's actually the main point of my play, is
Yeah.
to show that the parents, they're they're basically objectivists, uh, but they have the flaw of believing in family and things like that. And it's the daughter who's the main character. It's her, basically her plot line is to convince her parents, hey, these things are wrong. You are inconsistent in this regard, and I have to prove it to you by doing all these situations and things, so the parents can actually uh, rid themselves of that contradiction, and not sanction the
hmm
ridiculousness of these other family members. And I wish I had known that earlier, but hopefully by putting it into an artwork, it'll be something that other people will, on some level, at least be able to go, oh, yeah, why does my aunt say that thing? That's pretty silly. What the hell is that?
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's that sort of there's that sort of sense there of like of a virtue that I actually struggle with quite a bit, which is justice, and like this idea of like, don't sacrifice anything to evil, don't like give them a platform, don't give them anything really, like in any sort of discussion or like, yeah. And I don't know, I always like try really fucking hard to be charitable with my intellectual opponents, with like communists and all those people when I talk with them, but then it's never really, it only leads to like more doubt and more sort of like me giving ground on certain things and them just standing still firm where they are and just arguing in completely bad faith and like jumping all over the place. And it's really, I guess that's just in debates, but like I guess in life in general as well, I feel like personally like justice is something that I struggle with quite a bit, or like
yeah,
judging people.
yeah, and it's tricky because you have to also kind of figure out where the other person stands,
Yeah.
and it's like a I who did I talk to? It doesn't matter. Um, for example, you're debating someone who says that they're a libertarian, even if they're like a
mm,
friend of yours or whatever, or an acquaintance. Uh, you you have to figure out where do they stand on their knowledge of things, because they might be the type of person who's just, they say they've heard the term libertarian and they think, oh yeah, that's me, and they're not really serious about a lot of these things, and so discussing with them might be difficult in terms of knowledge, but it might be easy because they're not the communist who is aware of their entire metaphysics and things like that.
yeah.
And for me, that's kind of the difficult thing with the whole justice and judging people too, and
hmm
morality, because I don't know where the line is
Yep.
of when you can start making those judgments about a person,
Yeah, because
or all those sorts of
mhm.
things. And I'm gonna go back eventually to Peacock's what is it, moral judgment, and I
Oh, I know what
think
you're
that's,
talking about. Shoot, what's it called?
yeah, that speech of his. Yeah,
I don't know what it's called. Shoot.
I forget the full name. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, that is a very tough virtue to get across because like for me, like I don't want to like abandon good people. Like I don't want to like make some harsh judgment of somebody early on because of like one little thing they did, when I like giving up all this good that they could bring me. But at the same time, like I don't want to waste my time with somebody who's just going to like destroy me more and more and be a massive harm on my life. And I mean, this is a huge struggle that I have with like friendships and like relationships in general, and yeah, all sorts of stuff like this. Because I don't want to be the type of person who just judges everyone and thinks everyone is a terrible person and lives in complete solitude, when all around me are amazing people amazing, honest people that I could gain a lot of value from. But then I also don't want to like just go sacrifice my own judgments to everybody else and try to be friends with everybody and try to appease to everybody. And I feel like I'm falling more on the second direction lately, because it's just, I don't know. As of late, it feels like I've been struggling with trying too hard to appease people.
Yeah, like sanction. Um, I think, uh, yeah, I think that sometimes, at least for me, it can seem like benevolence. It can appeasement can seep into benevolence, or uh,
Mm.
that your benefit of the doubt can go not too far, but you can give too much, uh, and that's a really tough thing to try and figure out, because it number one, it depends on what the context is, but you also have to remind yourself of the principles behind all those things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's tricky to apply it. It's not easy, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I'm any kind of authority
Yeah.
on it yet. All I can say is, yeah, it's difficult. you
Yeah, yeah, and
know,
that like these sort of things, it's like now I want to learn more. I want to figure this shit out. I want to like continue like knowing how hard this is and knowing how much it matters, knowing how much all these virtues, all these things, like seeing all these concretes around me of like what happens when I do this wrong. What happens like when I see this done wrong, and that's one thing that art can do as well. It can show you this is what happens when you do this thing wrong. Just seeing that, it's like, okay, now I'm like motivated to learn this more and motivated to understand this more, and that's really really motivating. And I think I'm actually going to apply for the OAC eventually, and hopefully learn more about the philosophy through that, and hopefully read more as well. But we'll see how all that ends up going in the future.
yeah. Well, I mean, good luck with that. I've I've thought about doing those sorts of things, or enrolling in certain programs of like the Ayn Rand Institute, or doing certain things. Um, I go back and forth on it, and I'm also trying to figure out, like, okay, you know, if I want to plan to go to Ocon one year,
Mm-hmm.
should it be like a year in advance? Should I plan like 2 years, because money and expenses, and if I want to bring anybody, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, those are the kinds of things that I've been thinking about and
Mm-hmm.
considering, because it
Yeah.
could also, depending on where it is, it could also be a chance to meet up with the people I've been talking to the last few years, if they decide to come, and that would be like the coolest thing
Yeah,
ever.
that would be crazy. Like meeting up with
Honest,
all the people in like the Discord servers and stuff like that. Like those people are just, to me right now, they're just people with avatars and no
yeah.
faces and they're
Some
not
of
actual
them,
people.
some of them I've known for like almost 3 years at this point, and I don't even know their real names, which is weird but kind of funny.
True. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, we like it's a whole like online sort of community, which is really really weird. I mean, like I don't use the internet that much. Kind of a fucking boomer in that context, but I don't go on these like servers that much, but it's like I see how much people interact on them, and it's like, wow, there's like real strong friendships here, and it's like, but like nobody's nearby. There's not this big objectivist movement where you can just go and like set up clubs in your city and meet like passionate objectivists. It's interesting, but
Yeah, and for like normal people, you don't know if they're the kind of person who may have read her, or heard of her, or not heard of her at all. Uh,
yeah.
it's it's hard to say. And kind of, I guess, on the topic of friendships, and figuring out what to do with a person or friendship or what you value in them. Um, the main thing I've done with some of my friends is I've given them copies as gifts of like Atlas Shrugged
Yeah.
and The Virtue of Selfishness, and I've said, this novel is like the coolest thing ever. It's my favorite. Here it is. And The Virtue of Selfishness, I've said it's short, it's small. If you ever want to pick it up, go ahead, and then I leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever bring it up, then we could talk about it. But and I send them like the short clips that Euron does, and I send them my videos and some of other people's
Yeah.
videos. But it's not a thing where we openly discuss. I just kind of use it as a way to, as a friend, make some of my ideas known, and that's it. There's no. I think when it comes to evaluating, especially like a friendship, especially if it's one that you've had for a while, and maybe you've changed, but they're a certain way. That I think there's a kind of a time and a place for not only evaluating what the friendship means, but if a certain conversation were to start, how to move forward either from that, or if certain ideas that the other person or that you may hold conflict to such a degree that you might have to break things off. That is kind of, I wouldn't say it's scary to me for some of my friend groups that I've had from high school and other places, but it's something I do think about occasionally, where I'm like, if this topic were ever brought up, I know so and so, might like Bernie Sanders. Is that the kind of thing that I'm willing to break the relationship for? Are they enough of a value to me, et cetera, et cetera?
Hmm.
It's a really tricky question, and I haven't found the full answer yet what to do in
Yeah.
that kind of situation. So
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just sort of I'm very like with people who I'm close with. I can be very vocal about some not like aggressively vocal where I'm just like bringing it up constantly. Or do I probably don't do that. There's no way. I don't talk that much. But whenever something political does get brought up or philosophical does get brought up, like there's the whole like, yo, what if your senses don't actually work question that people ask a lot. I'm like, oh, what's your evidence for that? Wait, do you have anything you can point to that shows how the senses might not work? And I'm like, and they're like, no, but they might not. I'm like, that's the guy. Like, and we get into that sort of argument, and so like I don't know. I'll get into like little discussions with people, and I've given people like copies of I gave one person a copy of The Fountainhead, and then I let someone borrow my copy of The Virtue of Selfishness, and just from conversations that we've had and stuff. But most people that I've talked to seem to focus a lot on politics, which is, I guess it makes sense because people are very like that. That's what they view that's where they view ideas as important. But I don't know. It's tough to just argue with people about politics all the time, and even I guess that's what my channel's been very focused on lately. But I don't know, man. It's it gets old fast.
oh yeah, yeah. I realized my last year of college that politics was definitely not for me, because partway through my junior year, I started getting involved with some of the political groups on campus more directly.
Mm.
And at first, it started with like seeing a flyer for some, let's talk about white privilege meeting. And I would just be like, oh, this will be rich. Do I have an exam tomorrow? No? Okay, I'm going to go and just sit in. And eventually, some people from certain groups on campus started noticing. I started coming to meetings, and they approached me, yada, yada. I eventually joined a few groups. But by the end of my senior year, when I had started calling myself an objectivist, I downloaded Discord, and I was approached by the Canadian Joe, the punished Squidward on YouTube, about, hey, I've liked your tweets, Mister Man. Would you like to join my Discord server? And this was before the public one came out. And I said, oh, sure. And I wasn't even finished with that. I was shrugged by that point. But as I grew closer to those people, was started getting more active on Twitter. The people in the political groups I was in started kind of hating me because I started getting more vocal about
Hmm.
the ideas. To be completely fair, I kind of parroted Rucka on some of his statements on, the ideas are important and whatever the hell he said during that time,
Mm.
saying, politics is not the main thing. It's philosophy. It's Ayn Rand. And that kind of got me in trouble. And eventually they kept wanting to talk about the politics. And I'd be like, okay, I'm fine with that. But what's the principle behind it? And that kind of discussion wore me out very quickly. And I realized that, okay, yeah, politics is not for me as a thing. It's not something I care about. It's not something that I can get involved in without getting completely exhausted within like 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, I've always noticed like I actually do join a lot of political groups, but like a lot of the people in those groups like I don't gravitate towards them as much, but there were some people who like seemed interested in talking about the deeper philosophical ideas in there, and like those people I tended to gravitate towards and would end up like having really long conversations with them about stuff. And like it would start with really basic political stuff, like oh, what should we do about China, and like I would get into like, oh, we probably shouldn't put tariffs on them, and like all those sort of things. Um and then we'd end up like a few minutes, like after a while we'd end up talking about like the validity of human senses, and like like
Mhm.
if you just see like a cylinder from one perspective and you see it as a circle, are you really seeing reality as it is? And like it's like holy
Oh,
shit, like we we would get deep really quick, and like we just
yeah.
start at these political things. So it's like I don't know, if it's tough to talk to some political people because they don't want to get very deep into philosophy. Like most people are just pragmatists, utilitarians. I mean, if you listen to the way that um I guess there's a Vosh video where he talks about how he thinks about politics, and like always what he reduces down to, he's like, all right, it's just basically like we go from here, you use some evidence to prove this thing, and then it all reduces back to human happiness, so overall human happiness. That's the standard, and then you can't go any deeper than that. It doesn't matter if you don't like human happiness. What's wrong with you? And it's like, well, shit. I mean, human. What is it? What do you mean by human happiness? Like you have to define your terms, and you can go way deeper into this, and but no, these people don't want to go any deeper into these things.
Yeah, I think one of the issues with that kind of person uh, is that it's like it's the logical problem, or maybe the epistemological problem of the person thinking that certain things are givens. So like, oh, of course reality exists, even though some of
Mm-hmm.
their other ideas will contradict that. They don't. It, it's like there isn't a need to think about the deeper stuff, epistemology and metaphysics, that hard. For a while, I, for example, thought not that I knew everything about the metaphysical branch of objectivism, but that oh yeah, I know the axioms,
Mm-hmm.
so that's it. That's all I really need, right? And it's like, no. There's a way in which you can kind of default on the axioms. You can kind of default on your thinking on them because, oh, they're self-evident. Yep, I get that. Cool. Moving on. When
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm trying to say, right? You can't just take the given as the given. You have to like get a better
Yeah.
understanding of everything and explore. And then by using the spiral theory, you will eventually go back and say, oh, that's an aspect of X that I didn't realize.
Yeah, because yeah, a lot of the times you get so deep into your like once you get so deep into the philosophy and you get so abstract, you lose sight of the fundamentals. You lose sight of where everything came from. And if you lose once you lose sight of that self-evident, you can just build all sorts of crazy castles in the sky. And
Yeah.
I actually noticed something similar to this, like because I was talking in my conversation, I guess, debate with Patrick Casey. I kept mentioning like, no, you people are abandoning reason. You people are. He's like, what are you talking about abandoning reason? At
Yeah.
that point, I'm like, oh fuck, this is like, I like this is not gonna go well because we can't get any deeper here. Like it's like I don't think this dude is capable of getting to those sort of conversations, those um those epistemological conversations. Like, he's so focused on the politics, so focused on these, like, so abstract, built on nothing ideas,
Yeah,
and the
and you
consistency
can't.
with them in them, that we can't reduce back down to epistemology. And that's scary with people, because these are the people who dominate our culture. These are the people who control, like, what's going to happen in the future with our political scene. And I mean, it's scary, but I guess ultimately that doesn't matter as much as me understanding the ideas first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the funny things that I've kind of uh, come to a weird realization about is I don't no, I don't think I mentioned it in my most recent video. Damn. See, that's one thing I should have put a post-it note on before I started recording, because I wanted to make this big point, but then I got sidetracked with my other examples. And
Mm.
but one of the things I've come to realization with the last few days, and this once again, this might be the kind of thing that seems obvious, uh, but it it became more explicit to me, and so that's why I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Uh, is that you know when you're talking to these kinds of people, or if you see them do something that contradicts reality, it contradicts reality and thus proves through everything but not necessarily the benevolent. It doesn't prove the benevolent universe premise, but it can prove to you, it can validate to you the benevolent universe premise, and that A is A, and that you can keep a positive outlook because you know that these kinds of people are going to fail or be miserable, and that even if there's a sense in which they're winning the culture war,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, that it is short term in a sense, and that it's kind of inconsequential in a way, uh, because their ideas contradict reality and thus will necessarily fail. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there become so clear to me until recently, and I've been finding, oh,
Oh shoot, you're cutting out a little bit.
oh shit. Um, Let me see
It
if I
becomes so
can.
clear that they contradict reality, and then you did, like, oh, internet connection is unstable. Shoot.
I'm gonna try and I'll see if I'll close Discord because that might be taking up some stuff.
Oh, I should close some of my tabs too. Let's do that. There we go.
Yeah. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good.
Um, oh, I know why. Oh God, why did it do that? To a different thing, and I don't want to change it back to where it should be, because that we might lose connection. Anyway, if
I
it's
don't know.
still
It's
okay,
fine. It's been working pretty well. There was just like a few seconds where you cut out.
um, I think what I was saying was that because these people are contradicting themselves and trying to contradict reality, there's a positive aspect to that because it further proves that A is A, things are what they are. There's a argument that Aristotle would make, that I learned from Peikoff's logic course, that if if you have someone who says, reality doesn't exist and things aren't what they are, and the pink elephant is actually the pair of headphones I'm wearing, Aristotle would basically just say, I'm so glad that you are a proponent of reason and rationality and that existence exists. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Uh, this is actually a river, and I'm actually a gigantic monkey. And he would say, I'm glad to see that you and I are both conceptual human beings, and that logic prevails. Uh, and that Peacock's example made me laugh really hard while I was driving the car. Uh, don't peek off and drive, kids.
Oh man, I know what you mean though. Like I listen to Peacock while I'm doing deliveries, actually, like, constantly, and like there's times where he just said, like, the absurdities that he points out is just so funny sometimes, and the whole crowd just dies laughing, and I'm laughing, and it's like,
Yeah,
this is amazing. He's yeah.
I think my favorite example actually comes from Ayn Rand on her. I think it's her the anti-industrial revolution speech. Uh,
Yeah,
I,
that's a
if
good
I
speech.
think it's that one where she starts with a short story,
Yeah.
and it's like, imagine, you try to go to work, but now you have to take the bus, but then the bus gets outlawed, and then you can't make a toaster because toaster, it's
Mm-hmm.
making a toaster. Oh my god. uh you know the thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The thing. uh my focus. uh it's really funny going. I like going back to that little section now and again because the audience's reaction is really funny, and that there are points where you can hear her like pause for a second, go, and then she continues, and it's like, I wish there was video of some of those moments of her or Peacock,
Yeah.
because I would just love to like see their faces. uh and it's, I
Oh yeah,
wish.
that anti-industrial revolution speech was so profound. I remember at the end of that story, she's like, and all of this to save the toucan, or so it was some like inconsequential animal. It's like, holy shit, like this is this is incredible. Like I like right when she said it, I'm like, I think I don't remember if I paused or not, but I might have. I think I had to like pause the thing. I was like, oh my god, like
Mhm.
this was powerful.
Yeah, I have I have those kinds of moments all the time when her or Peacock are speaking. Less or so with someone like Iran, but usually what happens when I'm listening to Iran is I'll make some connection or some integration when he's talking about a point that I'll be like, oh, cool. Where it's not directly what he said or something, profound. It'll be
Hmm.
something related to what he's talking about that will have me make a connection with it. Uh, and that's what I think is, I don't know. Things like that
Mm.
are cool, and I don't know how it works. I don't know what my brain's doing, but golly, it's fun, and
Yeah.
that's it. There's if you haven't read it, I haven't read The Art of Nonfiction, but Ayn Rand's The Art of Fiction, I started reading again. It's been a couple years, and I decided, I should pick it up again. Um, I read chapter one, and it's really fascinating that she she spends a lot of time in the first chapter talking about preparation for writing or for really any task. That to do it properly, you need to have a lot of stuff in your conscious mind, focused, but then you need a lot that's loaded into your subconscious to be able to focus properly on the thing. So, if you're going to give, like, let's say you want to give a speech or or a debate, and you want
Mm.
to prepare for it, it's you can't like, on the one hand just do no preparation, and just go in blind, but you also, shouldn't cram yourself with so much that, you have to have like a list in front of you of just all kinds of things to talk about, or the possibilities of what someone would say. Uh, the thing with like either doing something or speaking extemporaneously on a topic is related to the amount of integrations you make.
Yeah.
So if you have like a concept in in your mind, and you have all these concretes attached to it that you can use as examples, the more that you have, of course, the more that will be subconsciously loaded, and the more you can just kind of use, and the more active your thinking will be in a way, or the easier it'll come. So if I had to, if someone put a gun to my head and said that I had to prove free will in a debate, and that was something I haven't really thought about, um, regardless of whether their question is valid or not. Uh, the amount of integrations I've made beforehand, and it really it relies on subconscious, storage,
Yeah.
uh, basically, and that can be hard to interact with, and that can be
Hmm.
difficult to, what am I trying to say, to know how much you have loaded.
Yeah.
But I guess you only know by the using, which is
Hmm.
kind of like, that's the whole process of of integrating things, isn't it? Is that you have to think consciously of some things. Some things will come to you that are loaded in your subconscious that will either be correct or errors or whatever. You correct them, and then things get loaded back, and you have to kind of keep doing this loop uh, to expand your knowledge. And it's it's a really fascinating process, and she goes into it into the art of fiction in very small ways, but it's really interesting. And a couple of videos I'm going to make recently, God, a couple of videos I'm going to end up making are going to uh, talk about that a little bit more in detail. I think it's the oh my God, the idea of what's it called, the interaction between the conscious and the subconscious, psychoepistemology.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the that is like both really vague to me, and yet I get it in a way, like that you can observe your subconscious bringing things up to you
Mm-hmm.
and observe the interaction. But the hows and the whys of that are where it gets muddy for me, and yet I'm like, oh yeah, I get it, I know it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like being aware of that, I think, is the key to helping with integrations, helping with preparing for a debate. And it's that kind of
Mm-hmm.
constant awareness that is really key.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, like your subconscious is so important in your life. Like when you're just trying to like, yeah, debates one thing. Even like writing's another thing. All these sort of things that you do when you try to like create something or say something or want to do anything, you have to like very much rely on your subconscious. And a lot of times it's, um, I guess, when I was younger, I guess, I used to be very, very untrustworthy of my subconscious. I did not want to, like, I would have to think it something consciously and explicitly, form it consciously in my mind before I could say it. And, like, that would lead to a lot of breaks in train of thought, a lot of problems, because I still would be relying on my subconscious feeding this stuff up. But I had to, like, check it really, really, really harshly in my conscious mind before could just come out of my mouth. And I guess over
Well,
time, one thing I've discovered is that, like, I have you it's so important to trust your subconscious, and like I have the concepts that I need. I have all these integrations, and I just need to like say, okay, subconscious, go, and I'm just going to kind of rely on the words that it's providing me.
yeah. I mean, I am probably over a year or two, maybe three away from reading Dim,
Mm.
because you had. I am not gonna. I tried reading that book uh, about a year and a half ago, and I got about like 7 pages in, and I had a similar reaction to what I did with Atlas Shrugged, in the sense that I was like, ooh, probably should put this down because it's a little too much. I could just tell that uh, he's relying on your own knowledge of certain things to help with understanding a lot of these things. And I was like, no, I should, as much as I'm interested in his charts and his graphs for D1 and D2 and
Mm-hmm.
misintegration, uh, you have to put it aside. And I don't know where I was going with that.
Oh no.
No, I don't know. It has something to do with like what we've been talking about. Something.
Yeah.
Uh, oh! It was trusting your subconscious.
Yep.
It's like um, it's like a sense of life thing too. If I'm if I start with a blank page, and I let's say I can't get into writing today for my thing, I should just put up a new document or flip to a new page and just write whatever. And uh, there's a sense in which you have to just go with it and edit later, but you also need to figure out, well, why did I write X, Y, or Z? what's the deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, do I stay true to it? Is it a temporary thing? You know, am I having a bad day when I write this poem or this song where it's like that is clearly like a day I'm in malevolent universe, and
Yeah.
that is that the kind of thing I uh, would gravitate toward in terms of like say, oh, I want to play this song. So I, even though it's a pretty intense song, I would want to play Liberty's Cry or Hurricane or even one that's as intense for me as Till Now
Mm-hmm.
again, or even in front of people because they're the kinds of things that I've worked on, and I said, yeah, this is me. Um, and there's a sense in which I've seen objectivists online or people who are interested, particularly artists, who try and go against their subconscious sense of life. Uh, and they go so hard that they make themselves phony versions of Ayn Rand, right? In trying to write the
Mm.
next Atlas Shrugged, when their subconscious, when their sense of life is basically feeding them, a mixed bag. And I don't know where the line is where when you consciously then look at what you've created and edit, where I think it depends on the person when you get from staying true to the good stuff and the stuff you want to point out and the stuff you want to edit out. But there is clearly a line to where you have to trust yourself enough to correct these any subconscious errors that might be there or
Mm-hmm.
bad premises or whatever. But you have to let them come out
Yep.
and then correct. Uh,
Yeah, you can't sort
so
of yeah, you can't sort of suppress real emotions within yourself. You can't suppress real thoughts, real premises that you hold because like if you ignore them, you're never going to resolve them. You're never going to overcome those if there's problems and if they're even problems because there's certain things that like Ayn Rand would definitely disagree with some of my music choices, for example, but like that's for me to sacrifice that would be to sacrifice such a major part of my life, something that I gained so much value from, that it doesn't make sense for me to try to copy Rand in that context or try to copy what most objectivists think is right or most objectivists think is the yeah um because I like every individual has their own unique values and like some people might hear that and think, oh, that's being subjectivistic, but no, that's not true at all. Like we are individual human beings. We're not there's no intrinsic sort of standard for what our values are. There's nothing that is universally applicable to all of us in this intrinsic sense. And
mhm.
we can't really look to what Rand wanted or what Peikoff believed or what those people thought about their values and or yeah anyone like that and say, okay, they believed this, they thought this is what they valued, so now I'm going to value this because of that, because they did. I mean, that's pure secondhandedness. And it's
Yeah.
so important to just cultivate your own values and your own desires.
I One thing I did a lot in high school when trying to find out who I um, was I would basically instead of like this is a dumb example. Um, Instead of like the cartoon that has the monster of the week or like the Power Rangers. Have you ever watched Power Rangers?
A little bit. I don't remember watching too much. I didn't watch very much TV actually when I was little, which is weird.
Oh, well, okay. Here's a good example. Uh, oh, if you read or watch a James Bond story,
Mm.
right? Uh, there's a self-contained plot, but none of them really carry over.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like monster of the week or the conflict of the week, like a Perry Mason thing or NCIS or an anime that doesn't really have a story. I would basically do that, but with like a philosophy or an idea. I would pick one for the week and be like, let's try this out. That has to be true. Like for a while, I was I was really into the founding father. I've always been into the founding fathers. But I was like, deism? Maybe that's right. And, then I'd go back to being an atheist. And then I'd be like, well, Buddhism doesn't sound too bad in some ways. I like this meditation thing. And, I
Right.
just flip flop. And there's a sense in which I think that's kind of positive, but it was also like nutso for my brain because I would just be like going all over the place.
Yeah,
Um,
I did a similar thing back when I was like a like committed Catholic. Like I was like, oh, let's integrate this with other. I obviously didn't know the word integrate back then, but like let's integrate this with other philosophies that I've heard of. So then I'd like look up like existentialism, and then I'd like integrate it with that. Actually, existentialism. I was a big fan of that for a long time until I discovered Rand. But before that, I would like look into like Buddhism and Confucianism. There was one time I was like, "Ooh, this Confucianism stuff sounds interesting," because I read like a Wikipedia page and saw a few positive
uh,
or a few things that I thought sounded good. Um, and then there was a time where I was looking into a lot of like Eastern philosophies. I was looking into like Taoism and all that stuff. And it would be like read the Wikipedia page and be like, "Oh, I guess I'm a Taoist Catholic now." I'm like, I don't know. I was just trying out different things, and I guess there's just this desire to like have a committed set of ideas. Like we care about a consistent set of ideas, something that rather than like all this like disjointed, discombobulated set of things, and like we look to sort of established things there, I guess, and or I guess I don't know that I don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's because if you're as a conceptual being, if you can't help but integrate in some way, you're, in a way, I guess you'll always be looking. See that this is the hard thing for me of conceptualizing that idea of, because I want to try and explain it in a way that's consistent with free will. I just don't have the words for it. The idea that, okay, you can't help your mind from integrating things and integrating knowledge. And my guess is that that has to do with whether you focus or drift or
Hmm.
default. And that will then lead to either integrations, misintegrations, or disintegrations. Uh, but that's all I got. And
Yeah.
I think if you're at least somewhat an active-minded person in some ways, conscious choices to seek out different ideas or philosophies, whether they're right or wrong, and then eventually you'll make like the ultimate choice of the kind of thing you'll
Hmm.
end up being.
Yeah, for
As,
sure.
yeah, as the result of your
And
uh,
objectivism is the pinnacle of the search. It's the ultimate philosophy to discover.
yeah, yeah,
All hail
and
Miss
it's
Rand.
like, yeah, yes, clearly. I have a shrine actually.
Oh,
This
nice.
little thing here. Yeah, it's actually if you open it up, which I won't to desecrate the great
Oh, yeah.
image.
Don't
I have a
desecrate
frame
that by showing it on the
like
internet.
I have a framed picture, some candles, and I have a a button, a clicker that has a voice clip of Diego saying Miss Rand is grand. And I click every night before I go to bed. Diego whispers to me softly in my ear. And,
I love that.
okay, that's pretty. Yeah,
That's beautiful. No, that's so beautiful. Diego,
Miss
we
Rand
thank
is
you.
grand. Yeah, thank you.
We thank you for your beautiful voice and the creation of this great objectivist
Hashtag,
underground movement.
hashtag subscribe to the DDV show and
Yeah,
support their
for
Patreon.
those of you who are watching who are watching this video and don't know who Diego is, go subscribe to the DDV show.
This is ridiculous. I hope he sees this one day.
Hopefully, he'll probably see it. I think he watches my channel. Hey Diego, if you watch my channel, go comment below, and comment comment a bunch of times and comment like the timestamps of everything that you have something to say about.
Yeah, give him some traffic.
Yeah.
through, through like the YouTube comment bots that say loved it or
Yes.
great video, keep it up.
Oh yeah. Oh,
It's,
I love that. Like when I used to schedule premieres, like the video would go up and like you would click on the video and there'd be all these like comments like, "Oh, loved it. Great video. Wanna be friends?" And then the video wasn't even up yet. And
yeah,
it was
I
crazy.
can't tell you how many of these stupid accounts I've had to report and block,
Yep.
and I don't know what the solution is to them. I don't know what the hell they're bots,
Yeah.
but like I don't know what the hell are you supposed to do with them.
Hmm.
Um, and it seems like, I mean, at least from a quick Google search I did earlier today, uh, it seems like they kind of gained prominence in like a little bit in 2019, and then more after this whole virus thing happened. Um, but I don't have any,
Yeah, I know.
solid.
I actually remember like yeah, my first videos there was none of that. YouTube wasn't having any of that. But then all of a sudden like it just started appearing under every single one of my videos. I'm like, who the fuck are these people? Where'd they come from? And yeah.
And
Now
then
there's all
the
this like creepy pasta shit of like, oh, if you respond to want to be friends, like he's gonna fucking hack your account and end up deleting it. And it's like, holy shit,
jump through your computer,
jump through your computer. Yeah, one time I had a friend who, well, he was my friend, but now he's gone. But he responded to the "wanna be friends" comment, and then one day we saw this dude walking on the street. We didn't know what was. He was just following us, and then we turned the corner, and he was there around every corner, and then all of a sudden, I looked over to my friend, and I saw his face on my friend, and then I looked away and looked back, and his face wasn't there anymore. He was gone.
and then I died, but I somehow typed this out.
Yeah. And then, oh shoot, wait, what is that in the corner over there? My door's opening, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
Oh god.
It's like the one thing I really hate is that it's not a creepy pasta, but it's the equivalent of
Yeah.
one where it's that image of the anime girl walking down the street that was like a comic that you would have to scroll through. I don't know if you've ever seen
I
that.
don't think I've seen it. No.
Oh, you're lucky. Uh, it's kind of like that image of like the maze. That's that YouTube video or that Flash game that
Oh yeah.
you go so far and there's a scream. Um, I think it's an image from like the girl from The Exorcist actually.
Hmm.
Uh, but though it's the meme that, oh no, people who know this video, they get like seeing just a meme image of it because it reminds them of the jump scare. And unfortunately, I've been a victim, and I deserve all the monies for my victimhood of
Hmm.
screamer videos and memes and copy pastas and creepy pastas
Yes.
on the
Hashtag me too, brother. Like I
uh,
relate.
hashtag creepy lives matter.
Yes. Hashtag creepy lives matter. We've been destroyed by all these scary videos and jump scares on the internet, and now our lives will never be the same. We need
They shouldn't have been.
compensation. Trump. We need you to
We
get
need
take down those videos and recompensate us for our troubles.
ridiculous. Uh,
Oh man.
Fantastic.
Oh, and oh god, the whole that just reminded me of the whole Trump situation with Twitter, and that's a whole other thing. Holy shit! Did he even did it end up even doing anything though? It seemed like the way he wrote it was in a way that it really ended up having no impact. At least that's what I heard from watching like other people talk about it.
Yeah, it seems like it hasn't had any real effect yet. Uh, if it ever will, um, but I haven't heard anything as far as oh, this has happened or thing
Mm,
has been written. I think because he gave a speech about like it was supposed to be, I think, about the riots or whatever, and all I've been hearing about it is that he was given a Bible, maybe held it upside down and said it's a Bible and posed for a picture with it and didn't address certain things. That's all I know because I didn't
Mm.
watch the damn thing, because why would I waste my time watching the
Yeah.
whole thing?
Oh yeah.
Uh,
It's just the principle of it that's so disgusting. Like
oh yeah,
it's I mean it's what's been happening for years. It's what like it began with like, oh, we don't want to regulate the internet, but Twitter and YouTube are kind of biased and like that's a problem. And then it's like, oh, but they're still private property, but is YouTube a publisher or a platform?
yeah,
I don't know. And now it's like, yeah, it's time to regulate. It always goes like that. It always goes like that. It's just one little thing. They say one little thing and they just keep it just keeps building because they can't just say it outright because everyone would be outraged. They have to like build on it and keep pointing at it and making the building this narrative over time, and then eventually they can hit us with hit us with the ultimate conclusion that, oh yes, we're actually trying to regulate Twitter.
yeah. It's the similar kind of thing that happens, that if you let yourself, be persuaded by a Nick Fuentes type. You know, first you'll hear something that, depending on who you are, might sound kind of funny or reasonable or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it's not that, you know, oh, the memes necessarily turn you. It's, you have free will to choose, but it's the same kind of process where you let a couple things slide, and
Yeah.
eventually, next thing you know, gulags.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah, and
seems that way
yeah,
because you've allowed it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I mean that's how people kind of get radicalized towards those like really dumb like fascist type positions that Nick Fuentes holds. It's like it starts with like, oh, I was, or like let's like the Holocaust denial as an example. It starts with like, oh, was it really 6 million? Why not like 5,999,999? Like, I mean, was it really exactly 6 million? And then they just say like it just keeps going down lower and lower, and then all of a sudden it's like, I think this was a conspiracy, and then it's like, oh, from it was a conspiracy. Who caused this conspiracy? And then you just end up wanting to kill the Jews again, and it's like it's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's the same thing with the with, blacks in crime. It's at first, you people will say, oh, you take a concrete statistic, which may or may not even be true, uh, and then eventually you'll just make rationalizations and conclusions toward that. You'll hear other people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You may or may not believe them, and then next thing you know, you're a racist.
Yep.
Through, and that's really sad. And um, there was, like with all things, I regret to say this, but there was a time around 2016 where I was kind of flirting with some of those ideas. I wasn't on board with them, and there was always an uneasy feeling I still got. But there was a time where I would end up listening to people who I didn't know. I didn't know what the alt right really was or what
Yeah.
that meant. But it was this guy named, I think, the Golden One is one of them. Um, or at least he's sympathetic in some ways. I don't really give a shit because I haven't listened to him in like 3 or 4 years. Uh, but people basically, before someone like Nick Fuentes came on the scene,
Yeah.
or what was his name? Millennial Woes. Yeah, that's one I haven't
Mm.
seen a thing on in forever. But I listened to some of his videos, always thinking like, there's something that's picking at the back of my brain that's wrong. But there are things he brings up that sound okay, or that
Yeah.
I kind of agree with on
Mm-hmm.
like a very short, concrete level. But thankfully, I was able to pull back,
Yeah.
and I started eventually reading Ayn Rand and listening to Rucka and even Charles and Yaron Brook and even Dave Rubin. Some of his conversations kind of helped me like gain more perspective and be like, okay, I'm getting like weirdly insulated, and I need to like do X, Y, and Z to get out of this. And thankfully, I did, because it can be easy to fall into those sorts of traps. And I think the reason people think that it's an automatic fall from like freedom to authoritarianism is that process of like defaulting, or of evasion, is that it seems automatic because there's some part of you that's not focusing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because like if you can give into like one of their like they use similar arguments just to keep going deeper and deeper into their philosophy, and they have like there's a certain principle that they're consistent on, and they can argue from that principle,
Yeah.
and implicitly get
Good
you to
point.
accept that principle by accepting like they use a reasonable argument from that principle that sounds like it's completely fine. It's like completely pointing at reality, and then like oh why can't we just regulate a little bit like regulate the really bad fossil fuel businessmen that are destroying the environment. Why can't we just do a little bit of regulation on them? But then it's like, well, you can use that same principle to regulate even more and regulate even more, and then eventually you get to full blown socialism. And like, I mean, that's sort of a slippery slope argument, but that's how it sort of works over time because that you don't switch from being like a centrist to a full blown socialist overnight, or from any you don't make any massive changes overnight. You just accept little principles that they throw at you and accept little arguments, and then you sort of default over time.
Yeah. What the hell was that? Yeah, that is it. It's weird because at around that time I kind of knew there were things that I was struggling with and struggling to understand, especially because Donald Trump caused such a fuss, and even
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton caused such a fuss with people that I was kind of lost in the hurricane of things, and I had to like get out, take a step back, stop arguing with people on Facebook, and really, really reassess the sorts of things I was consuming, why I was consuming it, what drew me to it, etc., etc. And it's it's hard to do. I think it's not. I'm just thankful that I was able to start this kind of journey so young,
Yeah,
and not when I was like 30 something, because I don't know where I would be. I don't know where I'm going, but I I feel more secure in a way and more tied to reality because of all these things.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, because some people like they don't care about any sort of ideas, any sort of philosophy until they're like in their 40s and they have their midlife crisis and have to like discover what they're actually trying to do with their lives.
Yeah.
But then there's people like I guess people like us who sort of see the importance of ideas like right away and see how important these things are and get very passionate about it and try and like a lot of people they obviously like use that obsession with ideas to sort of focus on politics, which disconnects them more from their lives and makes things generally worse for them because then they end up blaming all their problems on the system. Like I watch a lot of Vosh sadly, but everything that he seems to talk about, like every single cultural phenomena with like incels or people becoming fat or people like they're eating too much fast food or all that stuff, he ties it back to the incentives brought through our capitalist system. And if we only had socialism, people wouldn't be fat and people wouldn't be struggling to find relationships. And it's like it's so disconnected and it's so politics focused. And like you could do so much better with like an actual philosophical system with an ethics and a epistemology of like how we know and what is good and how should I live my life, rather than just like having this sort of deterministic view that we just got to change the environment, and then once we change the environment for people enough, then what follows is just going to be automatic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, that the changing something through the smallest amount of volition you can muster then will lead to other automatic things.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually really cool. Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's like the idea that let's say God uh, creates everything and yet allows free will, but it's also determined in a grand scheme. But if you do this tiny little thing in your small amount of volition somehow, it'll cause this chain of events through volition and then go back to determinism
Mm-hmm.
afterward. And that's exactly how communists view history and everything, except secularized. But
Yeah, for
still,
sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that God thing that you brought up is actually really interesting too, because I mean, like, that's an idea that I really really struggled with. Like, I actually think I got to the point in religion where I was like explicitly rejecting God's plan, like saying that that doesn't even make sense that God has a plan if we have free will. Or maybe it was the other way around. I was like starting to reject free will. I think I went through both phases where I would like
Yeah,
jump between one or the other, or I'd like just completely like say God doesn't have a plan. That doesn't even make any sense. He gave us reason. He gave us choice. He gave us these things. So how the fuck could he have a plan for us? Maybe his plan is just for us to use our reason in the best way possible and our free will in the best way possible for us in the most authentic pursuit possible. I think that was a phrase that I would use a lot, authentic pursuit. Which, I mean, that was the point when I started like becoming a lot more open to objectivism for sort of obvious reasons with those sort of principles in mind. Now, I obviously wasn't perfect. I mean, I had a lot of problems. I was still religious, but I guess
keep going.
but like it seemed like shoot, no, I lost my train of thought. Why are you laughing?
The thing that made me laugh was you said I had a lot of problems. I mean, I was still religious.
Oh yeah. True, but like
there is an integration, everybody. Oh,
I mean, it's true though.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's like the meme. Why are you booing? I'm right, or whatever.
yeah.
That one guy from Eric Andre says.
Yeah, stop denying the metaphysical significance of my argument by laughing at it. What the heck? Oh man. Shit, where was I? Fuck. Now I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the different like perspectives you went on with religion and not.
Oh
And
yeah,
all
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I guess the whole idea of like trying to sort of put free will together with this sort of idea of a plan, with this idea of it's actually part of Kant's philosophy as well. This whole idea that like the phenomenal world is completely cause and effect. It's pure causality. Like there's no free will involved. But in the noumenal world, you have free will. And because it like, and that's some contradiction that Kant's trying to resolve, and he's just like, we can't understand how the noumenal I can't say that word, what the fuck, the noumenal world and how that interacts with the phenomenal world, and just because we can't understand it, and it's just chalk it up to it being a noumenal world.
Yeah, good job. You
I said it right the last time.
in the noumenal world, this is how. I don't know. Maybe that'll be like a bit at some point. A character I'll make up that they can't say like certain. What if
a Kantian who can't say the noumenal?
Yeah. That proves the contradiction of things, that he believes something and yet he can't actualize the phenomenology of the noumenal verbiage. Excuse my French, his. I can't. What was I gonna say? Who knows? Just pop. Whatever. His fucking speech patterns are bullshit. That's
true. Just write it like a James Joyce novel.
Oh god, I've read almost everything that man has written, other than his journals.
I don't want to. I read John Steinbeck, and that was enough.
I haven't read a lot of Steinbeck, and I kind of, after your review and talking to someone on Twitter about it months ago, at this point, I don't even want to like approach it. You know, part of me wants to go out of like a literary, artistic, you know, kind of like, oh, I should learn about it because he's a big author, yada yada.
Yeah.
But then another part of me is like, but will I enjoy it? You know, so
yeah,
that's one of the goals I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember liking Of Mice and Men by him, but I have no recollection of what was good about that novel. It could have been complete garbage as well, because I mean that was like my freshman year. But yeah, when I read Grapes of Wrath, like I think I was familiar with objectivism. I like started reading The Fountainhead, but I like there was always this feeling that there's something wrong with this book. There's something wrong with the way that my teacher is teaching it as well. Like she would basically like say like, oh yeah, he uses these run-on sentences here and doesn't and just complete he writes a whole paragraph as one sentence, and it sort of adds a sort of rhetorical flair to his novel, and like, oh my god. And then I didn't have the words to be able to like argue that, but I would just say like, oh, he can't use English, and I would like just poke fun at my teacher, and she'd get really mad at that. But it was funny.
Yeah,
it was all in good fun.
yeah. That's the funny thing about that is, they'll use the example that, oh, this is how people really talk, or this is how the world really is. There's even this problem in musical theater. Of all of the mediums, you would think that music and plays would be like, hey, they'd be pretty good, they'd still be decent, and yet even ones I like, because music has to be like really, really emotionally focused, and in that way, it has to like hit home all the time. And so if you're telling a story through that means, you better make sure that it's really integrated, or else it's going to fall apart. And you have a lot of modern musicals that still adhere to plot and still adhere to characters and the good stuff about storytelling, and yet there will be things in them that people will conclude like, this is how the world really is. It's actually really complicated, and there are no heroes, and it shows that it's not romanticism is basically what I'm trying to say, and I hate it. And I'm gonna start a sort of, well, when I start eventually talking about other art that I actually really, really like, I'm going to do sections where I talk about bad arguments on certain things. There's a musical called Next to Normal, which is about a family with the wife. She has bipolar depression, and it's about their struggles involving that mental illness. And it frustrates me because the main point of that musical is that humans find a way to survive through any struggle. And even if they can't have a normal life because of some mental illness, or because of some tragedy, or because of some circumstance, whatever it is, that there is still a choice that can be made, and that choice can thus lead to light or happiness or love, and that it's about the efficacy of choice. And even though it's not romanticist, it's a mixture. And unfortunately, people use that damn musical as an example of the world is super complicated, and there aren't fully happy endings in real life, and this isn't this isn't Oklahoma, this isn't The Sound of Music where there's a happy ending. Oh, it's actually ambiguous when it really isn't. And it frustrates me that people's analysis of things just go completely off the rails, and they miss the fundamental point of the thing, and drives me crazy.
Yeah. There also seems to be like this sort of obsession with like subverting expectations in art, like, oh, being original at all costs, and like making the bad guy win. Oh, wouldn't it be funny, cool if the bad guy wins, even at the cost of like destroying the art and leading to like a disgusting sense of life. And it's just
it's not even a new idea.
No.
It's partly, I think, some of its complexity worship that that something is complicated and therefore it's good, versus the simple is bad, which doesn't mean that the simple is actually good, but that it doesn't prove either. And it's the entire. I don't know. I shouldn't say anything on Kant's view of aesthetics because I don't know enough. But I bet he has something to do with it. So that's all I can say.
Hey, I mean, Kant's everywhere.
Yeah. He's even in the word. You can't have concepts without Kant.
Oh fuck!
Oh my god!
Fuck. Oh no! Oh no! Rand's theory of concept formation has been officially debunked. She says she doesn't believe in Kant, yet somehow she believes in concepts. what is this? This is
Hypocrite.
contradiction. Yeah, she claims to be non-contradictory, but really she believes in the
Contradictory.
really she believes in she really believes in Kantian philosophy full-fledged.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Ayn Rand and Kant were actually, Kant was an Enlightenment philosopher, don't you know?
Oh my god. That you saw that PragerU video that every objectivist responded to where they
Oh,
criticize the Enlightenment as being too pro reason and then cite a quote by Kant that sounds pro reason. It's like you literally all you need to do is look up, oh, Immanuel Kant in books, the Critique of Pure Reason. Oh yes, this great worshipper of reason, the man who cemented pure reason and firm in its seat in Western philosophy, Immanuel Kant. Incredible.
right. And he even says so in his damn books. Like it's right there
Mm-hmm.
from the quotes I've looked at. It, I mean, that's something that kind of mystifies me, to be honest. Is like, how can you miss that? You know, it's one thing
Yeah.
if if you have like this crazy view, which I think Kant did, of his definition of reason is something that's different from Rand's or Aristotle's,
Mm-hmm.
or even the Enlightenment thinkers, and thus that's part of how he's able to, you know, discombobulate everything. But because you'll hear people say that, oh, well, that's reason, but what about emotion? Or they'll say something like, pure reason is like a detached thing.
Hmm.
It's pure reason is noumenal, right? Or God or whatever. I don't know. It's dumb,
Yeah.
and I hate it. And everyone's a poopy head.
Yeah. I mean, like how can God perceive reality? He has a specific form of consciousness, so it doesn't even make sense how he can perceive reality. So God's in his own phenomenal world. We're all in our own phenomenal world. God has his own. And the noumenal world is unknowable to any of us, even God.
Now that's a new formula. I haven't heard that one before.
Oh, that's straight from Peikoff. Like Peikoff would use Kant's arguments to debunk the ability for a human consciousness to perceive reality, because basically the argument sums up to basically saying like we can't know reality because we perceive it in a specific way, which means that our consciousness has identity. Well then, for any single being to perceive reality, a worm, a Martian, anything, it has to perceive it in some way. You can't perceive reality in no way. That doesn't make any sense, because then you're not perceiving reality. But so then how could God perceive reality without a consciousness, without a consciousness with identity?
Without a way to perceive reality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the religious people would just say, I don't know, God works in mysterious ways. And Kant would probably say the same thing, because it's the noumenal realm. We don't know.
You know what they would say? I know that this meme is used to undercut the person they're saying it to, but this is not my meaning of it. They would say, "Sir, this is a Wendy's."
What? I don't know what that means. I've never heard that.
Oh, oh man. Okay.
Wait, hold up.
So,
I recognize it. Fuck. I recognize it, but I don't know the specific reference. Sorry.
basically, all it is say you've got let's say a Trump fan talking about the libs, and it's like a Twitter video. He's going on a rant like a Josh Feuerstein type or some ridiculous nut, and someone would say, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." In other words, it's a way to tell them basically to calm down, as if he were in a Wendy's restaurant going on a rant.
Oh yeah, okay, I get it. I figured it was something like related to that, but I was like trying to put my finger on it.
It's if you don't know exactly, it's kind of confusing.
Mm-hmm.
My reason for saying that was more like, they would say that as a way to like evade, like just let me eat my sandwich. It's the doppelganger, or it's the yang to "Sir, this is a Wendy's." It's just let me eat my hamburger. Why do you have to be serious all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's everybody talking to Howard Rourke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they only ever say that once they have no argument. Once there's like,
Yeah.
like, oh God, it's just they all only always say that. Like that's like the second you hit them, you get them to a point where they can't go any further on that principle. They're like, oh my gosh, you're going too hard. Just calm down. Why are you thinking about this stuff? It doesn't even matter anyways. Just let me eat my Wendy's.
Why do you keep saying why? I've been told that a few times now. One of which was a pretty was an instance where I was at a party with some friends, a small group of friends, and we're very drunk. It was very late. It was like 3 a.m. So in a way, it was kind of inevitable. But we got talking about like YouTube and copyright and things, and I was at the point where I had stopped drinking, but I kind of had gotten to the point of like the tiredness set in, and I got like a headache. But I didn't want to go to sleep, so we kept talking. Yeah. And eventually one of my friends just kept saying, why do you keep saying why? Basically, why you have to have an answer for everything? And you know, I didn't take it very seriously in a sense because we were all drunk. But I think I sometimes think back to that kind of moment, and in a way it's weirdly like fuel to me, because I'm like, why am I asking? Why am I that way? And why should I
you keep like asking that? Why? Stop asking why. You're asking why now. You keep doing it. What the fuck?
Yeah, I think it'd be funny to write a scene with a character like that who eventually goes on like some tirade of like, it's the essential sort of like, you always want to be rational and stuff, blah blah blah, when they basically end up just spewing nonsense. I could go as far as to make it like a South Park thing where they eventually like just start like puking all over the place because they're saying literal word vomit. That would be funny, but that's the kind of, it's funny.
That'd be interesting. You just ask why and they just throw up.
Yeah. It's like this. Oh, it's the Kantian disease.
Oh God.
Where they're so averse to reason that it's like they can't even. They're allergic to it. Yeah, that's what it is. They start breaking out into hives. No. What's the Hegel? Shit. I'm trying to think of like some pun. Like instead of like breaking out the hives, they like what? It's like I have to get like a list of like the bad philosophers and have like reactions that would be maybe puns or jokes about them. Like maybe Immanuel Kant is like a ghost that no one can see or hear because he's in the noumenal world, and he's like powerless to try and get people on his side, even though they are. He's like, wait, you're misinterpreting me. But he's also like, but I can't be interpreted. Shit. And then he like wipes himself out of existence after uttering that.
Yo, that could be a video. That would be dope as fuck.
Yeah.
Just all the philosopher shit. And then Hume could just be like fucking tripping on acid, and he just fucking sees like shit just fucking turns into other shit at random, no consistent. Holy shit, this would be incredible. What I should
do is I should find a way to like do that thing where it's like what's it called, like chroma keying or something, where you can like take out your outline or whatever, or like a video clip from like a green screen.
Oh yeah.
And then like do something with that where like where what was it, Hume you said?
Yeah,
we're like except I then like morph my image to be like completely unrecognizable. Anytime Hume shows up, it's just like a garbled mess of nonsense.
Just like fucking white static noise shit.
I love the joke in in Peacock's lectures. Every so often he'll make a joke that he'll say something like, maybe this coin will turn into Hegel.
Yeah, I love
turning
that.
into Hegel is like his meme that he loves to do.
Yeah.
I haven't read Hegel, so I don't know what he means by that, but it's the funniest thing. I'm just picturing this man.
Like flip a coin and then like actually have it turn into Hegel. That'd be incredible.
Oh man. or they would eat
'Cause
like Hegel bagels, and but the bagels they have to try and toast them before they transform into something else. And if someone and the person who ends up eating the Hegel bagel, it's in their stomach and they're like, oh, finally I have something to eat. And then the bagel of course transforms on the inside and it becomes like an alien. This is getting really weird, but it could be good.
yeah.
It's a good. There are possibilities. It would have to probably be like a series of
Yeah, for
ever
sure.
increasing ridiculous. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
good stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm excited to see this now.
I'm gonna put it on my list of things because I've always wanted to do skit characters or type of
Yeah.
thing. Spoiler alert, they're gonna show up in my Bible video series.
Mhm.
Characters I've had for like years that I've made up. But I want to do the same thing with like bad philosophers or things like that because it's funny and fun,
Yeah.
and that could be a fun thing to do. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And
philosophy
like,
time.
yeah, that could even that could even get like real traction like among like YouTube people who like philosophy. Like that could, because they could
Oh
see
yeah,
that and like be like, oh yeah, yo, when I was learning about philosophy in my philosophy 574 class, the synthetic a priori ontology of collectivism. I remember Hegel said something like that. I don't know.
yeah, uh, yeah. That sounds really fun, and it could get more wacky and also more explicit the longer I go on. Because
Yeah.
eventually, I'm gonna have to read. I'm gonna have to read books on these people
Hmm.
or direct sources or whatever.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Hmm.
and then that could be.
Have you seen Peikoff's History of Philosophy?
I actually listened to that last year.
Ah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
I did it sort of parallel to finishing Atlas Shrugged,
Oh,
and I finished it back in August, I think it was. I
mhm.
ended up finishing it. Uh, yeah, there were. It definitely took me a while to get through.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's long.
I I think there's a lot that I probably just kind of went over my head.
Hmm.
But the benefit of it is that whenever he references certain philosophers, I now have an idea of who they are, or I'll be reminded of them. Like there was one he mentions every now and again. Oh, oh no, what's his name? He's like the first guy to do something. I know that's really vague and not helpful at all.
Thales said everything
Not
is water. That like the first philosopher.
it might have been
Heraclitus, Parmenides.
it was either Parmenides or Thales, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
Parmenides. He says like the first good guy. I think in philosophy.
damn it, who was it? It might have been Thales. Uh, damn, there's a specific one who has a kind of a long name from that time period. I can't remember who it was.
It might be Parmenides because Parmenides. I don't know. Parmenides was generally good because he said there's like nothing doesn't exist. That was his big thing. But then he like drew all sorts of absurd conclusions like nothing can move and change doesn't exist and all those sort of things.
I don't think it was him because the couple of times I've heard Peacock use it, and I've perked up since listening to
Heraclitus?
the uh,
Heraclitus
oh,
maybe?
it was well, actually, this doesn't help because uh, I recognize some of them, but I don't remember their uh, what their contribution was. But like Epicurus, uh,
Mm,
Dino, I remember. But basically, what I'm just trying to say is that whenever he references some of them, I now kind of
yeah.
have an idea of what he means. Like, it's not just he'll say, Heraclitus thought everything was immutable and ever changing, yada
Hmm.
yada. Uh, it's not just that I have that statement and yes, okay. It's more like, oh, I remember Heraclitus. Peacock reminds you of what he said, and it's more grounded than
Yeah.
was. It'd be like someone. It'd be like well, when I first started listening to like Raka and Euron, they might mention Leonard Peikoff. I'd be like, that sounds like a cool quote that person said. I don't
Hmm.
know who that is,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
rec.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember that. I think my first copy of the Fountainhead I got, and I saw it was like, oh, with forward with afterward by Leonard Peikoff. I'm like, who the fuck is Leonard Peikoff? Why should I listen to this guy? I like Iran. Why don't they have like a Iran afterward? That would be a lot cooler than Peikoff. Who the fuck is this Peikoff dude? And then later I realized, oh wait, Peikoff is like,
we're like, fuck off. I'm sorry.
Oh shit. Whoa, that's blasphemy. Go pray to Ayn Rand for your penance.
It's a joke. Calm down.
No.
Because I know they're going
to be... We can't joke about people. You're destroying the metaphysical significance of Peikoff by doing that.
Right, by making a pun that means nothing. Oh my god, that pisses me off. Like making certain jokes that are literally just there because they're fun and funny and have no content as far as making fun of something. It's just, hey, that's silly, you know. Yeah. Oh god, people can be such doo-doo heads. I don't know the word I look for.
No, that is the perfect word to describe people.
Right. Yeah, I've been using those kinds of words a lot the last few days, and I don't know if it's just like if that's coming through as like like some sort of like defense mechanism of, rather than, you know, being the strident justice wanting objectivist. It's more like you're dumb.
Oh man, you gotta love it though. Like sometimes you just dismiss people outright. You're a doo-doo head. Get out of my face.
It's fun to do.
Very much.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else going on, or anything else you wanted to talk about?
I'm trying to think. Damn, we've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes. That's awesome. Time flies. What even is time? Does time even exist? What is
Honestly,
this thing we call time?
I was actually really sad whenever Dan's podcast was like, okay, it's been like an hour, we should wrap this up. And I was like, what, already?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was, although it was kind of late whenever we started.
Yeah,
so.
Dan's always free like really late because I think he works a lot. But I think our conversation when we talked, we ended up going for like, it felt like a long time. Like I was up late that night because I had to walk to a different dorm that time when I talked to him because there were people in my usual study room. I was pissed, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, you were talking about people who buy flags in your recent video, and I got a little triggered by that because hold up, I bought a Hong Kong flag, bro.
Oh.
Shoot, can you see it?
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh, actually, I don't know if it was from a video you've done recently or a picture or something, but I saw that and I didn't know what it was exactly.
Oh yeah. I bought a bunch of flags recently because I was like, yo, these would be cool for decorations. And one of them I did buy an Israeli flag to make people mad. So, and then I watched your video. I'm like, oh no, I did exactly what he condemned. Oh no.
No. I mean, it's not a universal bad.
Yeah.
But it's more the point that the types of people who are going to do that explicitly to inflame, probably you know who I'm talking about. Like a libertarian type isn't going to have a deeper idea of why they're putting up the flag,
mm-hmm.
or someone to own the left is just, well, that's a second-hand motive. Yeah, and like I said, I think there's a way in which you can do something or wear a shirt or something in a benevolent way. Like, if I want to buy like some T-shirts or whatever that somehow promote capitalism in some way. Whether
I bought a I Love Fossil Fuels shirt from the Alex Epstein Center for Industrial Progress store.
Well, that's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's I think there's a connection between like motivation, what's being depicted, and a couple other things I can't think of right now that go into that. But like the I Love Fossil Fuels, or I think there's a shirt. I don't know if you know who Paul McKeever is.
No.
So you should definitely look him up. He's on Twitter, and he has a YouTube channel which he doesn't upload very often, but his videos are really awesome. They're older, videos.
Hmm.
Like we're talking like 10 years, 11 years ago. Um, but they're on objectivism. He's an objectivist. Um, and they're still, to this day, they're still really fantastic
Hmm.
stuff. But he has a few shirts I've noticed in some of his videos from back then, and some pictures he's taken more recently, where it'll be like either it'll be Reasons Harvest, which is like a different way to celebrate, I think, Black Friday or Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
um, uh, and other shirts like that. Like someone wearing like a dollar sign or an "I love capitalism" or something.
Yeah.
There's something which you can wear that, I think, as a way to. It's like a self advertisement in a way,
Yeah.
uh, but it's not meant as a way to. I hope I get into a fight with this thing. I think that's the distinction.
Yeah.
It's not like when I was in college, I knew Caitlin Bennett, the
Oh
Kent State
God.
gun girl. Yeah, yeah.
Wait, you
Went
went
to
to
her.
Kent State?
Yes,
Oh shit.
yeah. Uh, and you know, we hung out quite a bit, and there were things that people in the group and she would sometimes do that were clear, that kind of motivation, that sort of, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it nihilistic, but that provoking kind of thing. Like they go to a political event and ask certain questions that were
Mm-hmm.
deliberately loaded, or wear shirts or things to piss people off, and that was the only motivation. Not even like this is also a thing I support. Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those Liberty Hangout videos are so fucking bad. It's like the whole purpose is just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go piss some people off, make some people mad, ask some questions, and but the funny thing is when she does it, like she gets fucking dunked on by the people she's asking questions of every single time.
Yeah, I still love the video of her. She makes a comment towards a bigger woman, let's say, and she makes a comment about the woman's weight, uh, where she says, like, I think it's like, stick that microphone in my face, and she says, you probably eat it, and then she says, what'd you say? And gets in Caitlin's face, and Caitlin says, I carry, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen that she says that every time she gets threatened, she's like, "You know I
Yes,
carry, right?" It's
which
fucking
is the
cringe.
dumbest thing you could ever say. uh, it does nothing, and
True.
it's so, yeah. I've gone back and forth on this over the past like year or so, of making a sort of like hour long personal sort of documentary type thing on Liberty Hangout, and I, I think I'm gonna re-add it to my list, not out of spite like I some of my motivation was in the past, because sometimes I would get into an argument with them, or I would see something that would make me really really angry, and I would want to make that video then, but I'd be like, no, this has to be like a focused project. It has to be a rational thing. It can't be a
Yeah.
rant, because then they could use that against me, or who knows what. And I want to make the best product possible to show, to not only tell my story with how I knew Caitlin and others, but also to track their progression to calling themselves, what was it, Monarchy Hangout for a hot minute,
Oh
uh,
God.
a week or two ago as a joke, and now they're back to Liberty Hangout, because if they
Yeah.
changed their name, they would have no traction because no one would know who they are,
Yep.
um, which is
Yeah.
really funny, because that's her husband who does most of that stuff on the account. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because
Uh,
he's a lot more like far right and more like extreme than she is. I think like he's fucking crazy from what I've
I'll
heard.
I'll say this much: the millisecond I met him, I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him before, and I got a gut feeling. Let's just call it that. And I was like, "There's something with this guy that I hate," and I
Mm.
couldn't identify what it was, and it took me the longest time to figure it out. Um, and around the time I finally did, I was like, "Okay, you're nuts."
Yeah.
And it's sad because what I'm going to detail in that video, I guess, because I've said it on camera, now I'm going to have to make it, is that there are good things that she, not that she says or does, but there's potential I saw in her, and every chance I would say, hey, there's this Ayn Rand lady, boy, she's awesome, something would happen, and I eventually just had to disengage because clearly she was going on a different path than I did, and it's gonna be kind of about that, because I see people like, Kurt Wilcox made a video about it, and I think even like Diego's talked about them a couple of times. I'm pretty sure, but I have a different perspective and a different thing to add to the discussion on them that I have not seen anyone ever do, and they're not a huge presence. They're not like a Nick Fuentes, but they're big enough that I think the right thing needs to be said about them in the right context, in the right ways, that I don't think anyone has basically what I'm trying to say is I have a closeness to the subject that gives me some leverage to make a longer form video than someone like, say, Kirk, who just, why would he make like a 45-minute video on them, right? He can make 5 minutes, dismiss their arguments, and go on with his day. Where this was a part of my own development as an objectivist, and so I should probably get on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd definitely be interested in seeing that, and I think, I mean, that's an idea that could get a lot of traction too, I think, with you. Like, I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing, like, oh, dude who went to school with Caitlin Bennett talks about her, and like what like that experience, and like goes through like sort of her influence and like debunks her and stuff like that.
If you go back far enough in Liberty Hangout or search them, I am in some of their videos. I am in some of their like streams and things like that. Not very many, but I am there. I'm in some of the pictures, and I'm definitely going to use that both as a way to make like a personal documentary of my progression to objectivism and yada yada, but also as a way to show, look, I held these ideas and certain things about these things once too, and you can do basically, it is? It's like Apollo and Dionysus. It's like Plato and Aristotle, Ayn Rand and Kant, Skyler and Caitlin. The next great dichotomy.
Yes.
Actually, that would be a funny joke to put in.
Yeah.
Like the Titans and then us. I don't know.
The great titans of philosophical history.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
yet another in a great battle to the ideological death. It could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's something. And I think the main reason I haven't done it is just because I know it would take a lot of work, and I want to get the ball rolling again with videos and stuff. And productiveness and writing and going back to work and all those other things before I really sit down and like have a crack at it. So,
yeah,
but
for sure.
Enough about me. Do you have any future plans for your channel?
I don't know. I had to stop I guess I did stop doing the daily videos, and I don't think I could really do that anymore with work. Maybe I'll start that up when school starts again, because it feels like when I'm in school, like there's a lot more material for me to like integrate and connect, and more ideas for me to do. So maybe I'll start that back up again. But as of now, I just want to live stream. Like I like doing that. I like just hanging out and talking. Yeah, and I don't know, honestly. Like I like these type of discussions. That's kind of what my bread and butter has been on this channel. It feels like these sort of where I just talk, like the Dave Rubin of objectivism, talking with people like this. And I guess maybe I can respond to more Nick Fuentes. It kind of sucks that he's the person who like made me blow up kind of originally. But 360 subscribers and I'm at the top. But
well, Garrett, you don't owe it to him, you owe it to yourself.
True. Because like there's not much Nick Fuentes to respond to. Like it's the same points over and over again. Yeah. And you can't like, I don't know, I can't make a whole channel just dedicated to talking about that sort of stuff. I would.
Hey, you never know. People like Philosophy Tube have made an entire freaking living off of making the same points over and over. So we're advocating for freaking hedonism. Uh, I might respond to his video on that because that really pisses me off.
I don't watch much philosophy too. What happened?
So I think it was a video on like art and beauty, and it's way too long of a video. It's like 45 minutes. It didn't need to be, but he's an idiot and doesn't know how to keep things concise, especially when it's scripted. It's one thing if you cut something down, but or if you were like my most recent video where I just I threw it out there and there wasn't anything I really wanted to cut. Basically, he makes a lot of arguments, artistic and things on what the meaning of art is, and what does a novel or thing have to be beautiful, and what does that mean? And he basically comes out in support of hedonism as a philosophical concept, not just as I heard this on Wikipedia, but as a specific philosophy, because it's the nihilism of, well, there's nothing to do, so you might as well just do whatever. And it really made me angry. I didn't even, I wasn't subscribed to him or anything. It was in my recommended, and it kept popping up. And I was like, it was one of those reactions where I was like, okay, fine, YouTube, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And I listened to it passively while playing Death Stranding. And I noticed like my hands were getting like really like clenched, and I was like, I want to respond, but part of me is also like, is it worth the effort? And part of me is also like, but you might get a lot of views from it, and it might be fun.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna start doing those types of videos.
Yeah, those type of videos are fun.
The main reason I didn't was because my webcam just comes from my computer and it's not great quality. But I think if I do the thing like like Diego or you do, where you have the little screen on one end and then I just edit it, it could probably be a good video.
Yeah. Reaction videos are fun because like you can start off right away where it's just like chill, but over time like you can feel yourself like yelling more and just getting more intense, and it's awesome. Like even back like just when I started my channel, I think my first response video was like an Andrew Clavin response video, and I noticed like there's a clear distinction between that type of video, that response video, and like a normal video that I would do. Like I was a lot more like sure of myself in those type of videos because like exactly what you need to talk about.
Yeah. Well, hey, and to bring it all back, that kind of comes back to our idea of having things subconsciously integrated. You don't need a script to react to something that you're passionate about. You can just go and spitball it, and if you know you're right, or if you're confident enough, or whatever, you can let that momentum carry you through making the video, and that's the kind of thing that I want to do with videos reacting to those types of people when I get those reactions. I've started a private playlist of like I think I call it like reaction possibilities or whatever it's called. Some of them are TED Talks, some of them are like all kinds of things, and I want to have that sort of maybe the best thing is just to to remind myself of, okay, what's the content of the video? Okay, gotta talk about this thing, and just hit record and play the video and just go by and edit it as I need to, and let the emotions and the reasoning carry me.
Yes.
Because really, that's right. Let the ghost of Ayn Rand from my shrine say sweet nothings into my ear, and say, I don't know. I can't do her Russian accent, so I will make a joke of like, I can't even think of a joke like a A is A, or this is John Galt speak. I don't know. Some stupid thing that doesn't mean anything. Hashtag nihilistic filth, everybody.
Hashtag nihilistic filth. Go post that in the comments right now. If you made it this long, post #nihilistic filth, because then we know that you're a real objectivist, a real supporter.
You're a real Geroiper.
Geroiper. I like that.
Yeah, that's. Oof, probably have to change that because that's really cringy.
Nope, that's it. That's the thing. We're going with it now. That's what it is.
With Garrett.
Geroipen with Garrett. Oh God.
You're taking back the word.
Yep, I'm taking back the word, just like the Vosh and Destiny and the Xanderhall people do with the alt-right terms, where they just copy all that rhetoric and just say, "Oh, but it's the leftist words now. We're using it for the left now."
God, ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
I hate. Yeah. And that's the funny thing too, is that there's something about like passionate fervor that is really inspiring to me. Like Rucka, he did a video on like reviewing The Offspring, an album back in like, I don't even know when, maybe a year ago at this point. And that was really inspiring to me, that he just made a video about like an album he liked in a band and just talking about it. And I'm like, God, why can't I do the same thing? Why can't I just make stuff that I want to, that I'm passionate about?
Yeah.
And kind of let that be the driving force. It doesn't have to be this super focused, perfect, rational thing. It has to be what it is when I make it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I make errors, if I slip up, if there's something that I get wrong, then that is a consequence of what I was doing at that moment, and let it, it's like a Frog Machine. He's done a few videos recently where there was one where he did on habits. It was a short one that was a response to an older video he made on habits. And it was like a new thoughts he had on the topic. And they were things that he kind of corrected for himself, because in the earlier ones he's like, well, I don't think here's an elaboration, here's a thing I thought then, but here's what I think now. There's nothing wrong with that. And for me, I need to kind of get out of the somewhat perfectionist kind of mindset of if there's any rationalism in it or anything that's not quite correct, it's bad. That's something I need to keep in mind personally.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely get that. Like sometimes I'll like make a video and I'm like, or I'll like make a video, upload, and be like, I was so unclear and this is just complete trash. But I like know that like that's what I did at the time, and that's like there's a lot of good points that I had in there, and there's a lot of good things that I've said. And even if I think it's trash, that's not really true, because I got across the points that I wanted to make. I just haven't made them as clearly as I want to yet, and it takes practice. It takes just saying the things more.
Yeah, all these things they take time, and they take practice, and they take effort, and it's hard to keep perspective in sometimes, but you have to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's all I got. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, we made it past the 2-hour mark. Incredible.
Lit. We're now a feature film.
What?
We're now a feature film.
Is that what a feature film is? 2 hours long?
No, I think it's actually like 85 minutes or something. It's like an hour and like 10 minutes or something. It's like to technically be considered a movie. Because like some kids movies, for example, aren't even 90 minutes long. They're like 85 or 80. It's kind of nuts. But we're the average movie length of 2 hours.
Yes, for sure. I create movies on this channel. That's what this channel is. I create movies with other objectivists, and
yeah, great.
Let's roll the credits. And with the I don't know, carrying this whole channel on his back, we have Atlas right down there, carrying the world on his shoulders, right down, sitting there, looking up at Skyler and wondering what he has to say, because that's what we do here. We invite people on, and Atlas looks over at them. I look over at them and say, "What do you have to say?"
And I say to Atlas, Atlas, more like assless. Do more squats, you dummy.
Damn, you really gonna come at him like that? This dude's carrying the whole world on his shoulder. He's squatting the whole world, and you think he needs to do more squats? What the hell?
He needs to go lower. He needs to hit that threshold of past the
True.
what's it, 45-degree angle. You have to go past it and then do the full range of motion.
Yeah, if he would have gone the full range of motion, he wouldn't have to shrug. Like,
he needs to get those gains, and you're not gonna do it if you don't have proper form, Atlas. Come on, man.
Not like, man, all this criticism is just gonna make him shrug though again. Like, it's not.
Well, then he's a pussy. And
damn. Wait, you're calling Atlas shrugged a pussy?
He's only doing one rep of the world. Please, come on, he's got to at least do 2. It's been like 500 million years. For real,
disappointed.
Man.
I'm disappointed. What a disappointment. Oh God.
Amazing.
Oh, with that. Oh man, I'm actually really tired now. Shit, these conversations tire me out.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. But yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to add? I can't think of anything else I wanted to talk about.
I wanted to add 2 + 2, and that equals 4.
Sweet, incredible. Thank you for that, and thank you for this conversation. And that was a beautiful mathematical fact to round out this whole video, this whole cinematographical musical film and project with a final mathematical proof of 2 + 2 = 4. And with that, I want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.
Bye.